You are listening to New Earth Pathways. New Earth Pathways is a movement to awaken humanity while creating a community in unity. Connect to your heart as we come together as a circle of light to advance the awakening of the planet.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Awakening Stories on the New Earth Pathways podcast. And this is just a space where we get to connect with our community, with fellow light workers, and just talk about spirituality, awakening, and ascension, and really just kind of get to learn from other people's experiences. And today I have the great pleasure of getting to have a conversation with one of our New Earth Pathways community members, Cerena Lauren. And welcome, Cerena.
Thank you, Erica. It's delightful to be here.
Oh, thank you. I would love if you could just briefly do a little introduction for our listeners, tell them a little bit about what you're doing now and anything you'd like to share before we get started.
Okay, before we get started, well, I've been in the community for about a year, almost a year and a half now, since I began taking courses. And I'm now own codes and DQ certified, and also an evolution card reader certified. So it's been a phenomenal journey, and I'm going into teacher training, and just this has become my home frequency, to be here. And it's, with all the way the world has been this last few years, I mean, I am so grateful every day for the support and the camaraderie that I find and the kindred spirits that I find within our community.
I love that, Cerena. Just a few things that really stood out to me is, one, the fact that you've been with this community for 1 year and how much you've already done, and that you're already moving into being a teacher apprentice, and just how quickly that evolution has happened for you just in 1 year. And I had a similar experience as well. And I just think it's really fascinating and speaks a lot to the work that we are doing at activateevolution.com, and then just the support we have at New Earth Pathways. So thank you for saying that. And also, I agree 100%, just having that sense of community and sense of place where you can just be you 100% and just explore any topics and just really dive in and feel supported. So thank you so much for bringing that up right away. So, well, I'm going to just ask you a little bit more before we go into our break, and then we'll take a short break and dive back in. So, Cerena, I'm really curious to know, kind of just in general, was there a point in your life, whether as a child or maybe growing up as an adult, where you realized that maybe you saw the world considerably differently than other people, or maybe realized, wait a minute, I'm different? Was there like a pivotal moment there where you realized something was different?
Erica, I think I figured that out when I was incredibly young. Even I'm the oldest of 11 children, and I was babysitting by the age of 2. And my mother had a baby a year for the first 10 of us. And I just remember wondering how I got in this family. I used to ask questions like, did they adopt me? Because I felt like I didn't quite fit. Yeah, and really had a spiritual connection really early on, but that I had to figure out how to make that happen for myself. I mean, I was raised Catholic, and we finally got to Catholic school when I was in 4th grade and such, but there wasn't any home support for my spirituality, but it was there. And then I became, I got a BA in journalism because I kind of discovered journalism in high school and got kind of, intrigued with that. And then right away, I was in the newsroom in a practicum situation in a TV station when Martin Luther King got assassinated. And the sports director got up on his desk and celebrated. And I was like, what the heck am I doing in this career field? So I went into right away, got a job in social work, and then later got a master's in social work and did a whole career field. I've been retired from that for several years now. But I mean, just, nose to the grindstone, saving kids, child protective services, taught at the university level for 5 years to people coming into child welfare. A lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But with all on the side, always exploring spirit, trying to make some kind of sense out of the world.
Yeah. I love that you shared that, Cerena, because I think a lot of people can relate to what you said about your family. And that's, I kind of laughed at that, not because I thought it was funny, but because I completely relate to that. Like, who are these people? What, I don't fit in here at all. This is my biological family. And then trying to find a sense of place through career when, I mean, there weren't as many options as far as exploring spirituality and making a career of that, or, being a coach or anything. I mean, even I still remember a time when yoga was considered like weird.
Mhm.
So I think that's pretty common where people will gravitate to fields like social work or psychology or some kind of helping profession because they're really trying to have that sense of fulfilling a mission, like a higher mission. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm so excited to hear more about your experience. We're going to take a really quick break and we'll be right back. And before we do, I just want to invite anyone who's interested in learning more about the Activate Evolution community. And within that is our New Earth Pathways community. You can go to activateevolution.com. And if you feel a resonance with this idea of a unity community, you can find New Earth Pathways on Patreon and just search for New Earth Pathways, and we will be right back.
Are you looking for a community to light you up while connecting to others? Are you ready to live beyond the containers that have been created in the old paradigm? Come experience what it really means to be part of a New Earth community. New Earth Pathways is a community where a sense of belonging is ever flowing. Opportunities are endless and unconditional love reigns. It is time to create the reality you came here to become. If you are ready to step into self-mastery and creation, explore your brilliance with our community of unity. Together in oneness, we are in the creation of a new earth. We welcome you to a circle of light. Come walk with like-minded, like-hearted souls that uplift and support expansion. The divine design is in creation. Your light matters in this evolutionary space. It is time to connect to the miracle pattern and be the light you came here to be. We welcome you with open arms and invite you to visit newearthpathways.com to connect with others living their divine purpose.
Okay, and we are back with our Awakening Stories podcast interview with Cerena. And Cerena just gave us this perfect description of what it's like to be this spiritual being in a world where not everyone's quite there yet, like quite the opposite. And that was a really powerful story you shared about when Martin Luther King was shot, and just your experience being around people who were not in that heart space, to say the least. So thank you for sharing that. So Cerena, what were some things that you did? You said during your career, you would just sort of I think what you said, explore your spirituality on the side. What did that look like for you? And did you have anyone that you could talk to about spirituality, or how did you pursue that?
I had a friend who just started bringing spiritual beings to Spokane, and having workshops in her facility, and she really included me in that really early on. I studied something called body electronics, gosh, 35 years ago, and we were holding acupressure points on people, moving them through all these old experiences for hours, sometimes 8 hours. Your hands were burning, and it was just really intense. But I did that. I took a lot of workshops, just started and helping at a Body Mind Spirit Expo for years here when that was going on, just getting anything I could to build that part of myself. And then after I retired, I immediately enrolled in seminary and became a peace minister. And I still do in fact, I'm doing a memorial for a brother on Wednesday. But that's very meaningful for me. I studied with Dr. Joe Dispenza for several years, doing his workshops, and just kept, I became an angel therapist with Doreen Virtue. I did, just kept going out there and finding my next to really develop that part of myself, because I was so grateful when I retired. At first I thought, well, who am I going to be? But it was just this expansive time when I could go, okay, now it's time to take care of me and to really put my energy into spirit. And so, it just opened up a whole new world, really, of being more peaceful and contributing in other ways.
Yeah, I love that, because I know that retirement can be kind of a scary jump off point sometimes, but you had been building up this whole other aspect of yourself and nurturing that, and then you were just kind of ready for that to be your main focus. That's lovely. I love that story. So Cerena, you mentioned that your family was not necessarily in the same space as you spiritually. Was that a struggle for you? Were you really open about your spiritual beliefs, or did you just kind of keep that to yourself and only share that with people who could relate, or you felt safe to talk to about it?
I don't think I even shared it with anybody for many years growing up. It was just my personal trying to make sense of the world that I was in. And my family, the main theme in my family was surviving and competition. I was trained in both, and I always told people to have a PhD in surviving.
Wow.
So.
Wow. That's really powerful. And being the oldest too, I'm sure that added a lot of extra stress and pressure to you. So, it sounds like, and I think that also can be fairly common, where people feel like they have to kind of hide or protect that side of themselves. And what would you, if you had something to share with someone who's kind of struggling with that themselves, they're in a family, they don't feel like they fit in, or they have a friend group where they just get made fun of, or they're the woo-woo one or the weird one or whatever. Is there any words of wisdom or support you would offer someone?
Yes, there is always someone like you. Really, it can be so isolating if you only look to a family that doesn't support you, and then you're just keep trying to get support there. That can be kind of a dead end. But there are many resources, just like our community. What a valuable place to come together and just completely be yourself with other light beings, so to speak.
Mhm.
Are light beings, we're light workers, and it's so like home to be among us every time on us, even though a lot of our training is on Zoom now, and we're all over the world. But I have to say, my experience of our community has just been the most nurturing group that I've ever been with. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah, I have to agree. And not that I want to go back there, but this was a pretty pivotal and point for me where I had originally just started with the community and starting to get to know people. But I remember the whole vaccine issue was going on. Not to bring that up because I know we moved past that, but everyone had different feelings and perspectives and ideas about it within our community, and it was all okay. And I felt like it was a little microcosm of how I hope the world can be someday, because, you know, actually out in the 3D world, as you know, if you're following any bit of news at all, there was a lot of contention and arguments and finger pointing and just so much going on. But in this community, it was just all 100% support, no matter how you felt about it. And no matter if you were struggling with it or not, or hated it or loved it, it did not matter one bit. And to have a place like that to land during all of that craziness was huge. I can't even speak highly enough of that. So just to support what you're saying, Cerena. Cerena, is there anything else that you had thought about before we met today that maybe you wanted to share about yourself or
well, one of the
anything
things that
else?
I do just, within these times that we're in, another thing, I find ways to keep myself in motion. I keep working on that because I think the isolation has taken a toll. And I live alone. So I became a yoga instructor a couple years ago, and I do that. I still do it on Zoom, but that's helpful. I try to get myself out in nature, which is really available to me, and just doing things. And the truth is, we have people like us, even though we feel like an oddity sometimes. But there are people like us, and we need to move ourselves out to find them, so to speak.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Lights.
really appreciate you saying that. Because yeah, a lot of people are starting to come out of that isolation, and it's sometimes it can be hard to switch gears again. It's been 2 years kind of sitting in your house, doing everything on Zoom. But yeah, just taking those little baby steps of maybe taking a new class or going to a park or anything like that. And I love that idea of staying in motion, growing, evolving, moving, and reaching out. Yeah. So
Because we have, I was telling some other people in our community on a call just a few minutes ago that I woke up with a feeling of grief this morning. And it has to do with just really acknowledging the losses of these last few years. That I am no longer connected in this place or that place like I used to be. And I don't think we're going to be returning to anything that looked like it used to. I mean, I think that's a fact that things have shifted drastically. I think we have more shifting that is in the future. And it's up to us to find new ways to connect, new tributaries to go on, so to speak, to find new relationships that support us. And it's up to us to support find ways to support ourselves. I mean, we really, if we don't do it for ourselves, who does? Especially right now, because we've lost so many connections and things are still shifting. So
yeah, I agree. And again, I really appreciate you speaking to that fact because yeah, it still comes up for me too, just randomly. I'll have this random grief come up, and, luckily I have the tools and support to work through that. And for anyone out there who is having those grief flare-ups, just know that that's a normal process and that's a valid experience and feeling. And again, like Serena's been saying, you're not alone in that either. And this isn't necessarily a pitch for activateevolution.com and what we're doing over there, but that the techniques and tools I learned through the classes I took really helped me immeasurably, and still do, when things like that grief come up and loss of the old way, even though I'm simultaneously very excited for what's to come, because this has been a huge shift and a lot of positive things actually came out of it too. So, but again, yeah, just taking care of yourself, like Cerena said, and reaching out. And anything else, Cerena, before we wrap up that you wanted to share?
Well, I could do another plug for our community, but I think you've done a good job. Just that, this is a place that you could call home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Be really safe here. And, it's a place where you can commit to yourself and to continue to grow and find ways to navigate this unknown space that's ahead of us.
Well, Cerena, thank you so much for coming on here and just sharing a little bit about your life and your experience. And just, I really appreciate how heartfelt and vulnerable you've been, talking about, some of your struggles, but also the strengths that have come out of those struggles. And it's just been so nice getting to know you a little bit better. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up now. And I do want to invite everyone over to activateevolution.com if you're interested in learning more. Again, we are on Patreon for New Earth Pathways, and that's just patreon.com/New Earth Pathways. And thank you so much for listening, and blessings, and take care. Bye-bye.
You are listening to New Earth Pathways. We are a nonprofit community creating a place for you to experience a new earth community in unity. We invite you to join the movement to awaken the planet while connecting to your soul family. By joining our soul community, you can contribute to the movement designed to be the biggest event in the evolution of humanity. Visit newearthpathways.com to connect with others living their divine purpose.